Everyone's trying to be an influencer. Not everyone should be an influencer. I mean, that's just straight up. Like, everyone has something to say, but not everyone is able to either A, articulate it, or B, have enough like knowledge behind it for it to actually hold weight.
Welcome to Marketing in the Raw, where I am joined with Deanna. Of course, I'm joined with Deanna. That sounds really bad. Like, of course, here she is. Deanna, she's
again.
here again. There's contractual obligations for some reason where she's got to join me at the beginning.
Right, talk about her toddler.
Yeah, exactly. She's going to talk about that Noah, like what a mother, always talking about her kid. Not this time. We even though we started already on that path.
Right. Okay.
How is life treating you?
Life is good. Life is good. Got blue skies. You know that's just like what warms my soul. I love the sunshine. I just need it for my soul. So
Solar powered.
Solar
powered. I didn't mean that at first, and then I realized, oh, all right.
Oh, this is a gem.
That's a gem right there for the two people that laughed or something. But we were talking about our guest today on today's episode, Darius Thigpen, and we talk a lot about video today because of Darius, his background initially in journalism, and his current role working at Social Live, and where he is the growth marketing manager over there. And we just started talking a little bit about video in general, and looking at it from both the marketing practitioner side of the equation with our clients, but then also looking at it a little bit at consumers of video, especially we're not talking about like a Netflix show or something, but just like video that's usually produced by creators and human beings, whether they're at businesses or personally. And you brought up sort of an interesting topic about seeing quote unquote influencers
in the wild.
Yeah. What is it you said?
It's just really interesting because you see someone creating content on their phone, like in public, and it's super cringe to watch the process of it because they're talking to an electronic, but I'm sure it feels really genuine on the other side of that, like because they're like making eye contact with the screen and the whole nine, but it looks kind of insane, like out in the wild. But I know it feels authentic in the video.
But the reason it feels, you're saying it feels cringe, is because as an actual human being in the flesh next to them, right, that's not what they're engaging with. But they are actually doing their best to create a connection through the device to all the other people other than Deanna that are actually going to be, hopefully watching that video, right?
Right. That's a great point.
I'm trying to think of, a joke for you sitting there talking to your computer. I mean, but that's why I have you. So I'm not just looking directly at the screen and doing the cringy stuff of myself trying to connect with folks. But no, and just to, extend that from there, and this is some of the conversation that we talk with Darius about, video is such a powerful place to create that connection, right? And that's what those influencers are focusing on. But you don't have to be an influencer to connect with folks on video. You just have to be a human being. And do you think, have you ever done video personally yourself outside of like this podcast where you were trying to kind of record it all by yourself and create that connection without that human being live on the other side with you?
Not strategically or very intentionally, maybe on an Instagram story or something. But yeah, no, nothing where like that genuine connection and the authenticity is super powerful. But I can imagine it probably feels a little funny at first, and then you just get used to it. You got to get your swimming legs.
Darius actually talks about that a bit, because you're talking a bit about how to just bring your authentic self and how to connect through video and how powerful it is. No matter what anybody thinks when you're looking at it from the outside and seeing this stuff that seems really, really cringy, video's a really powerful tool for people across all industries and so on to connect with people. You get to see people's mannerisms. You get to see their facial expressions. You get to see if it's like right now while I'm talking to you, I'm not looking at my face on the monitor. I'm looking at yours because I'm talking to you, right? And so I can tell when my, my solar, whatever that joke was a moment ago, doesn't land. Or whether Deanna's faking her laugh for me or whatever, but just in general, like we read those things, like the content is only a part of communication. All those other elements go into that, and video is one of the best ways of communicating that and building a connection and a rapport and and trust with your audience. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I think that it can be challenging to connect sometimes with just words or just audio. When you have all of that, it resonates on a different level, and you just get the vibe. And that's important to people. They want to feel connected.
You get the vibe. Even more important as we see AI starting to take over. I just can't quite. I just can't quite convince myself that creating virtual avatars and all that stuff at the moment is the right way to go. It kind of goes against my values in regards to creating a good connection with your customers and the humans. At some point, maybe with the right reason to use it, it might make sense. So, don't blame me if one of these days you show up and you're just talking to some virtual version of me with a little cybernetic implant and, I don't know, it's like, well, where's Adam? He's on vacation. This is his avatar doing the video podcast with me. No, I would not do that. That will not happen. Would be much of a podcast host if I wasn't actually hosting the podcast, I guess. But
when you had your Vision Pro on that for a while and you were working from that, it made that insane looking version of you, and it just did not feel as authentic. I'm not gonna lie.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That is, I got the Vision Pro, came to a couple Zoom meetings, and
it was unhinged.
It kind of looks like you, and then you realize it can't express in a number of different ways.
You look really angry, which we all know it's just not you.
Those things are going to get better and better, but it does definitely, what as they call it, the uncanny valley that you start to see. But until then, using video and showing yourself and showing your authentic self and just jumping in and recording video is a really powerful way to do all the things we discuss, and that things that we're going to discuss here with Darius. He is the senior growth marketing manager over at Social Live. And his background is in journalism, and now he's in marketing. And so he shares a lot about how his experience in journalism shapes the way that he talks about Social Live, and that why he strongly believes in video as a really incredible mechanism for connecting with people and customers and helping out with customer service and doing so many other things. Social Live works with a lot of enterprise companies, and so Social Live's mission is really about making it easy for the entire organization to get into video and edit the video and to participate in the process of utilizing video as a way of communicating on behalf of the business. So Darius is one of my favorite folks. Dude's got $1 million smile and is awesome to talk to. No wonder he jumped into journalism, and he gets me inspired to think about doing more and more video. And in fact, I sent, I think, one of the first couple episodes of the new season of the podcast to him and just said, hey man, tell me what you think. And so he had some great feedback for us. And one of the things he said was the banter Oh, it's all good. No worry. Like the banter, he had nothing to say.
Thank you,
it's,
Darius.
it's awesome. Yeah. That was just the one episode. So hopefully we've kept it up, all the
We
consistency.
made you a follow-up email.
It will, especially after we publish this one, we'll let him see it.
Right. Yeah,
He's like-
yeah. This will
he's
be
like,
the test.
On behalf of my episode, the banter was lacking. Well, let me just be quiet and let you listen to this interview with Darius Thigpen. Take care. Hey, Darius, my friend. I'm so happy to be talking to you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, Adam. It's a little bit of a storm outside, so not to timestamp this too much, but we got a hurricane going on here in Tampa. But otherwise, doing good.
Just a usual Thursday for you, right?
It's just a Thursday in Florida. This is what we deal with.
Like us, it's always a surprise in California because we just, there was a little bit of an earthquake, not a big deal. But
We get warnings on
know
these.
it's coming.
You guys don't really get the warnings on the earthquakes.
No, not at all. Well, I love talking to you. I've had a chance to talk to you a handful of times over the last few months. And for those that don't know Darius, dude's always got a great smile. He's got an awesome voice for doing podcasting and everything. He's perfect for video. I've got a face for radio, so it's great to have you on here to balance things out. But Darius, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about your journey. Currently, you're at Social Live, but let's go back a little bit. Where did young Darius start his marketing career? What got you interested in marketing?
Well, much like many in marketing and PR, I started in journalism, right? So broadcast journalism, sports broadcasting, play-by-play. That was my background in college. 5 years out of school, did that, working for a couple of different programs, a couple of different universities before coming into the marketing world full time. So sports broadcasting, writing, that was really the big thing. And that really set me up because any kind of journalist knows that it's not just about being able to do one thing. You have to do kind of everything. You have to be a writer. You have to be able to shoot, edit video. You have to be able to go and record. You have to talk to people. You have to set up events. You have to do all of these different kinds of things that translate well into marketing. So that's what got me into the door. Worked for same company that my dad worked for a couple of years. Transitioned from there to another company called Regora, which they do property appraisal technology. It's a really interesting company. And then spent the last year and a half here with Social Live, video creation platform, where we really cater to the enterprise. And it's been a good fit for me just because working in video tech, it's something where I always tell people jokingly, like, yeah, this would have been great to have when I was doing these podcasts back in the sports broadcasting day when I was doing a full remote. It would have been nice to have something like Social Live to kind of help me through it. So here I am now working for a company.
Now the
that provides
connection
that
makes
tech.
sense there.
Yes.
The broadcasting, you got the headphones of a broadcaster as well. And at first I was thinking like, okay, so what how did you feel about that leap from journalism to marketing, and how did that feel? Because there's some connections, but obviously some differences in kind of the outcomes of those. I do now also understand why Social Live is such a good fit, considering the broadcast nature, right, of journalism. But how did you feel when you made that leap from journalism? I mean, it's not like it's a huge leap in a number of ways, but it is still a leap and is a fit for some and not a fit for others.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, it didn't hurt that it was fewer hours for better pay. I mean, working in sports, you're working a 9 to 5 plus a 5 to 9, right? So you've got the normal day job, and then you have a game. You're working nights, you're working weekends. You're always on deadline. So changing from that to where we've got 2 weeks to put together a blog post, or we've got like a couple of weeks to put together a video project, yeah, I can work with that. It's a totally different mindset. But then that also means that you have to be okay with managing multiple projects. You have to be okay with having a number of things going on, shifting priorities. The story that you're thinking you're going to tell yesterday may not be the one that you tell tomorrow. These are all things that I still learned from journalism and from sports, but it just became a little bit more real getting into marketing, and especially thinking not just about telling a good story or doing a good broadcast, not just about the quality, but also about like the return on investment, thinking about how much effort I'm putting into something and how is it going to lead to revenue, really connecting the dots. That was the big learning curve, I think, for me. Not just, oh, we're going to create something because I think it's awesome, but like, no, what does this actually have to do? What does it feed into? And how is it going to help the company meet its objectives? So that was the big learning process for me.
Was there anything that happened in your marketing career so far where you were like, oh, that stuff I used to do before I was a marketer, that is like a little bit of a secret sauce right now that I could actually use, like something you hadn't done for a while, but you were doing in your role as a journalist that suddenly just absolutely gave you an edge.
I mean, for sure.
Role.
Getting in front of the camera. I mean, it's one of the things that actually got me through with my interview and got me through here with Social Live. The fact that I'm not just someone who's going to sit behind the scenes and maybe do a little bit of production work, maybe do some writing, but like actually willing to be front facing. So I think that was one that really helped me stand out. I mean, doing video editing, doing any kind of like voiceover, that kind of stuff in my past as well, definitely has helped me. But yeah, I just think that generally speaking, just like being front facing, but then also being cool behind the scenes and kind of marrying the two of those to be the strategist and the doer. Like I think that's kind of always helped me throughout my marketing journey.
I love that, the strategist and the doer. I always talk about with my team. We're talking about sort of the, there's the head in the clouds, but the hands kind of in the dirt. Where you're having to do the work as well. So it's great to be strategic minded, and it's, in fact, I think it's required these days. It's very difficult to, I don't really call this like outsource, but to get others involved that are doing things strictly like as almost like ticket takers. Oh, there's this deliverable. Let me go ahead and take care of it. If there isn't some strategic element that they're able to kind of understand and that they're aware of, and maybe even helps them toss in their flavor into that work that they're doing. And so that's why you just described, obviously thinking of things from a high level strategic standpoint, but you were just talking about things like video editing or writing, right. Which is getting your hands dirty and actually doing that aspect. You enjoy that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's great to have the person who's the ideas guy, right? But someone has to figure out how to put it together. So even if you are working with an external resource, an external team, or just someone else within the team who you're passing off the work to, you kind of have to know what that workflow is going to go like for them. You have to kind of think about how the pieces are going to fit together. And then, of course, when it comes to the bigger strategy, you have to have an idea and understanding of how things are going to go. You can't just be the person who's like, oh, I'm good at putting together a video and I'm just going to sit here and wait for a project. Like for me, that's kind of been my career in a nutshell. It's been that full stack marketer where I'm thinking through the strategy, thinking through the plan, and then going and doing it. And I do like having a bit of hand in both roles, not just one or the other, because if I didn't have the ability to do it myself, I don't know. I don't think that I would be as well versed in as many things as I am.
Is it important for you, or do you think it's important for marketers to be well versed in a diversity of things?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's just my background. Again, going back to multimedia journalism, you need to know all parts of the industry, and it's the same thing in marketing. I just think that, especially for me, because I'm looking to try to grow my career and to get to that CMO level, I don't want to get there and then have no understanding what the product marketer is doing, have no understanding what the design team is looking at, have no understanding why the markups team are saying, well, you know what, it doesn't make sense for us to put in this code or whatever the case may be. Like I want to have a general understanding of everything. So it's a bit of an empathetic approach, but then it's also just like practical. Like, oh yeah, if I need to fill in a gap, I can do so.
So you talked about where you're headed, and we didn't talk specifically about right now. Your role is as senior growth marketing manager. So given the size of the team and the lay of the land and everything, can you give us an idea of what it looks like for you over at Social Live?
Yeah, I mean, we're a prototypical startup, right? Where we've got a 4-person marketing team. We've been larger at times. We're in a period where we're a little small, but we're going to start expanding again in the near future. But yeah, my role, it's over content, social, over paid ads, over any kind of growth initiatives, like anything that we're looking at where we're bringing in high traffic, we're bringing in new clients, new business, a lot of expansion as well. So it gives me that perfect position where I kind of am getting to do a little bit of everything. I kind of am involved in all parts of the house. Not quite at, say, the VP level, but still even within the manager level, where I am able to lead a number of different initiatives. And for me, it's just it's the perfect position for me on my growth trajectory, like my own personal growth. So it's just couldn't ask for a better position to be in.
If you're talking about all the things that you like to do, are there things that you like to do that just in the end, to make sure that you are efficient and spending your time in the right place, is just not the right thing for you to do, even though you would love to be doing that?
I mean, I think I spend as much time as any in Asana. I mean, going through and looking at our projects in flight, taking a look at the content calendar, taking a look at what campaigns we have going, what's coming up. And then, of course, listening to the feedback from the leadership team and executives, and just kind of taking stock of what's going on, what the initiatives are. For me, I think that's as important as anything else. It's just knowing where you can go and how much time, how much bandwidth you have. Because, I mean, it goes back to the thinking through, all right, it's great to want to do everything, but how do we actually get it done? That's a big part of it, just knowing your bandwidth. So that, looking at myself as like a resource, I have to think strategically there. Like, how much time do I actually have?
But of the things that you do, or the things that you would enjoy doing, are the things that you could do yourself, but would be better to give to somebody else, to delegate, to hand off to somebody?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have in-house graphic designer. He's great with everything web, everything graphic design, anything print. I can certainly jump in and do that myself, but what would take, I don't know, 2-3 hours for me to do, he can do in 20 minutes. Like that. It's that kind of thing. So it's just thinking through, all right, I may have to wait for him to have a little bit of availability, but in the end, it's going to be a lot quicker, a lot more seamless for him to do it. Like that's a perfect example of just like, yeah, all right, I could do this myself, but I'm not going to try to take on everything. Just doesn't make sense to.
Given your experience and also the nature of social live, how much of what you do revolves around video or getting teammates in front of video? And what have you learned about the difference between being in front of camera and doing a video production when you were doing journalism to translating that into something in a business case?
Well, the thing is, like, when you're in journalism, or even if you're in film, any kind of production, you're working with people who absolutely want to be on camera. When you're working in a marketing position, you have to convince people, right? I'm sure that you've kind of been in that seat where you have to tell them, no, this is going to be great. This is going to help us, and this is why. Look, we're gonna have a high ROI on this. Like, you're going to get tons of love, and it's going to come in, and we're going to get deals. But you got to put yourself out there,
Yeah. Is there any pet peeve that you have as a journalist that now is, been working for a long time in marketing, that when it comes to how people are leveraging video, that you just be like, look, just stop doing that?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes I'll look at like social, I'll look at LinkedIn, and everyone's trying to be an influencer. Not everyone should be an influencer. I mean, that's just straight up. Like, everyone has something to say, but not everyone is able to either A, articulate it, or B, have enough like knowledge behind it for it to actually hold weight. But we're all trying to carry ourselves because, I mean, we're in an attention economy. So that's why we're in that position. Doesn't mean that everyone necessarily has to follow that approach. But I do think that it's kind of two-sided, because there is something to like fake it till you make it. Like, it's the same thing like with getting more comfortable on camera. The more that you kind of get that motion and do it and get in front of the camera, create video, do your social influencer thing, the better you get at it. But sometimes it can be a little bit rough seeing just like someone who's doing it for the first time and didn't really have a game plan. They're just kind of going out there and just doing it. It's a little cringy. It's a little cringy.
Even to your point, though, it's interesting because of how easy it is to publish. I mean, again, there's a difference between how easy it is to publish really good stuff versus how easy it is to just get behind a phone and publish some content and upload it someplace that consistency is like starting is one thing,
Right.
and then consistency is key, and not necessarily because the more content you put out, the more successful you're going to be. That's that can be a factor, but it's also that the more quickly you put out that content, the more likely you're going to get used to and improve
Right.
being in front of a camera, and you get better at that. You start to see yourself.
Exactly.
You have somebody who's able to give you some input, and you start to feel more natural about things, and then you improve over time. So that person, like to your point of seeing that person and going, oof, I hope that's just like the first 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 times that they've been in front of a camera, right?
And even then, it's what I'm critiquing. It isn't necessarily the person who's stiff on camera. Like, that's fine. That's going to be a thing. No one is made for camera. No one's made to be in front of the mic. Like that's something that comes with practice. What I'm talking about is someone who's inauthentic and is just like, you can tell, oh, they're reading a script. Oh, they're just doing this because someone on their marketing team said, go and do this. Versus the person who is authentic and is telling their story and giving their expertise and saying, I know this because I've got experience and I'm going to tell you about it. Am I right? Am I doing this for 1,000 people, 100,000 people, or am I just doing this because I believe it? You know, when I see someone who's creating content and they believe in it, that to me makes a big difference. And that's what I love. And that's what I look for, because that authenticity, it's infectious when you see someone who's talking about something they love. Like, you know that they're not doing this because they have to. They're doing this because they want to. Like, that's the thing that I love that video democratization is bringing for us. It's the inauthentic stuff that can be cringy. That's what I'm really looking at, is like, I don't know about that.
That makes a lot of sense. And video is one of, if not the most human way of, format of content kind of these days, right? And you get to see the person, you get to hear the person, you get to see if they look away when something's said, or the larger aspects of communication that are not about what's actually being said. There's the tone, there's the content, but there's also the mannerisms and the body language. So you get to kind of see, I'm not going to say the whole human, because oftentimes it depends on how much that human's getting shot and how much how inauthentic it could look. But you get to see, like you said, does that person really feel good in their skin on video? And is what they're saying something that they're embodying as they deliver? Or again, is it something where they're just kind of being thrown on camera and told to repeat things?
Are you giving me someone else's words, or are you giving me your own words? Like that's a big one for me. It's just, when I see someone that's authentic and they're just giving me the real, it's not someone who's perfect. It's not someone who's looking at the camera and nailing every single line, because we don't do that as people. We look away, we look down at our notes, we have to think about things. When someone is actually, giving what they mean, that to me, that's the type of content I love seeing on social media. And I don't know, people are weird. We do funny stuff. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I really resonate with. It's not the perfect, which I feel like sometimes we kind of aim toward perfect in marketing, and sometimes we should just drop back and say, no, that's not as good as the authentic. Give me the outtake. I love the outtakes.
Well, was there ever, speaking of outtakes and imperfection, was there ever a time in your career where you were striving for something that may have been perfection, and you realized, like, oh no, this is good enough, or this is potentially even more authentic there, then we don't need to go any further with this? Yeah,
no, some of the worst content that I ever produced was just, going back to broadcasting, it's stuff that I had to do in studio where I was reading off a teleprompter. It was garbage. Like, I tried to do the whole, like, I'm going to do the news presenter thing, but it wasn't nearly as good as being a play-by-play broadcaster, where I'm seeing and reacting in real time. And I think it's very similar. That's translated to everything I've worked on in marketing, where if I've scripted something that someone else is reading, I don't really see it as powerful as when someone is given some bullet points and they just kind of make it their own, Yeah, 100. Is there anything that you've learned
it could be in your career, at Social Live or elsewhere, but also in the experience of maybe some of your clients that you don't have to obviously share any names, where they were running into a real challenge leveraging video. And can you share kind of maybe do you ever have the chance to sort of step in and maybe coach them a little bit on things?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the hesitation to going on camera because I think people make that they misconstrue things. They think that, oh, I have to be perfect, therefore I'm not even going to try. So convincing people to get on camera, that's the main thing. And again, showing them that making mistakes, that's totally fine. You don't have to nail the script. You can take a breath. It's okay. I think that's one that we've had to work through with a number of our clients. But then also kind of going to like the less sexy side of it, but like the back end, knowing that there's content privacy, knowing that there's a secure platform that they're using, like kind of talking to them about like some of the benefits that Social Live has like as an enterprise tool, knowing that this isn't going to be something where content is going to be leaked out. Say if you're a financial advisor and you're giving specific advice for a few of your clients, you're not going to have to worry that that's going to get repurposed into some AI content. Like that's not how this is going to go. You're creating content and it goes directly to where you want it to. So it's like understanding that one, there's the human side of creating content, and then two, all the back end stuff is still going to work properly the way that you need it to, whether it's for security or just content quality, so that you don't have to worry about your machine crapping out in the middle of doing a recording session or a live stream or something. Like it's going to work. So like those are the two big things that I just kind of have to preach. Not just me, but like our CS team really will go back and preach to our customers.
Is there any as video has expanded in the channels that it can be in, we have everything from micro videos to long form videos and everything in between. Is there anything that's happened over the last, let's say 4 or 5 years that has just kind of come out of left field for you as a marketer and kind of really blown your mind and was like, wow, I got to pay attention to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like thinking back even further before TikTok, like going back to Vine, because I think that was the first time I really felt like everyone was jumping in and trying to do their own thing. But it was, again, trying to be creative and artistic. And in the last 4 or 5 years, it's almost like us on the marketing side and for our business goals, we're kind of co-opting a lot of that. But now creativity is starting to really come back, where you see some of the best that do it. They're not just trying to pitch a product, like they're trying to do more brand awareness. It's being more authentic. And yes, you do have good content marketing in there. So you are going to slide in your product, you're going to slide in your messaging, but it's done in a much more real way, and it's a much more thought through thing. I knew that we could do that with text, like the traditional blog posts like that we've been doing forever. That's always been there, but seeing that work into video and work into social in the last 4 or 5 years is really something that I don't know. I just didn't see coming 10 years ago, that I'm looking at now. It's like, yeah, of course. That was the way that we had always been doing things over in Twitter land and Vine on Instagram and whatever. Yeah, we could do that on LinkedIn too. Why not? So like that's where it's like a little encouraging. That's like we don't have to sacrifice art in order to get the message across. We don't have to be stiff. We don't have to read lines. We can just be ourselves. And I love that.
Well, I think you may be referring also to, right, like that there's the LinkedIn video beta right now that's also been rolling out. And people have been doing video for a while. LinkedIn has supported video for a while.
But yeah, mobile, like vertical video. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the mobile vertical videos and the beta version of it that they're starting to roll out. And it's so interesting to hear people go, oh, we don't need any of this on LinkedIn or that, because people are being creative with their video. And it's like, it's not that we're expecting people to go in there and start doing dance routines as a way of communicating their marketing stuff. Like what works will work, and what doesn't work won't work. But it doesn't mean that it needs to be a talking head with a whiteboard every single time. You can still be engaging, and we're nobody's being forced to go to that side of LinkedIn and sit there and consume it like it's YouTube. And it was also when you brought up Vine and thinking about those videos are 6 seconds, and it did feel like that 6 seconds, although it was small, it forced people to think creatively, but also not be so scared that a lot of those folks who were successful on Vine didn't even do anything on YouTube until after they became successful on Vine, and then said, oh, this is easy. We've produced 100, 200, 300 of these 6-second videos. People love them. I went through a creative process to do this. Now I can, especially since Vine obviously went away, I've got to take this presence now and sort of, move elsewhere. So we're obviously starting to see a little bit of a resurgence even of the shorter videos in a couple areas, while you also see things like Instagram and TikTok like continue to go higher and higher and higher in their limits, in their count. Yeah. So people start off with those small videos, and then eventually, once they get enough confidence, then they start diving into, okay, let's try bigger ideas. And it's almost like they want to make their way to Hollywood, and Hollywood is YouTube ultimately, where they've got like no limits in the length of the video that they put on there. Where do you think that companies, where do you think there's the biggest missed opportunities for companies using video?
I think it's tapping into employees and trying to get the people who are on the ground and get their voices in, because there is usually the mechanism where you have like a centralized team, a video team or video services or whoever, and they'll go and collect the stories and they'll work with employer brand, and that's how they'll tell the stories. But I mean, a little bit of user generated content, a little bit of freedom, of course, within some constraints, like with branding and any kind of compliance concerns, but just kind of giving people the tools to kind of do it themselves. I think that's where things are missing a bit, because plenty of people have their own ideas. They don't know where to get started when it comes to content creation. But if you give them the tools, kind of give them some guidelines, people are pretty good about painting inside the lines. It's just, you got to kind of set them up for success, give them some parameters. And once you have that and they're not staring at a blank canvas, well, then people can go wild and can submit and create as much as they want. Maybe not everything gets published, but you get them in the routine of like, yeah, I am going to go and show you a day in the life here at this facility, or I am going to go and take you behind the scenes of what it looks like when I do a customer visit, whatever the case may be. I think that's where there's a missed opportunity, because traditionally that all means, oh my God, we got to send a video crew somewhere, or we have to go and hire a freelancer, or we have to do this, we have to do that. No, man, we've all got phones, we've all got devices, we've got the cameras to be able to pull this all off. We just kind of need someone centrally to give the parameters and then let people go. And then, of course, use your better judgment at the end of it to make sure that you're not putting out anything that's inappropriate. But I think that's where there's a lot of opportunity for businesses to really tell those stories from the ground.
Scripted or unscripted?
I think bullet points. Like, you don't want it to be scripted. I don't like scripted
That's awesome.
content.
That's right in the middle. Right in the middle. I agree 100% with you, but you
got to give parameters.
You
got to have some guidelines. Yeah. So you don't want it to be completely unscripted. Like, if I'm saying, hey, we want to show what's going on at this event, I need you to show me what's happening at the booth. I need you to show me what's happening at the main stage. I need you to show me what are the big giveaways. Like, look for those few things. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to say. I'm not going to give you an intro and an outro. You can kind of put it together yourself, because that's your boots on the ground. I'm not. So you have a better feel for like what the big exciting thing is. I don't. But I'm going to give you a starting point. I'll give you some guidance. And then, kind of work together and flesh it out. But you've got your marching orders. You should be good.
That's awesome. No, I completely agree with you. I mean, even to be honest with this podcast, I put together sort of a bunch of notes just so that I think that there's a dishonor you do to the folks you're talking to from a guest perspective, right? Obviously, in not at least doing your homework and understanding the person that you're talking to on a human level, and being able to mine the gold that is specific to their human experience. And so I think the same thing, even if you're just doing something solo, having those notes to guide you. For some people, for instance, their stream of consciousness it's a pure stream. It's very straight. It's very, just it goes one direction and it's clear. And then for others, it can seem like it meanders a bit, and it's okay. It's fine, but just having those guiding, the guiding light to get you through it, like you said, and then adapt to one of the most authentic ways to communicate is literally just to be yourself and talk, right? And so, can you share a story about a marketing campaign that you or something maybe you guys did to the website or anything? It doesn't have to be social live. A website project that just didn't go as planned, and what did you learn from that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back a couple of companies ago. We tried a number of times to engage. We had this outside sales source that we were trying to market toward to get them. There's like these resellers. But what we would do was change the website and change everything based off of like what one person said. So we let things become flavor of the month. And that was the biggest miss for me, because we didn't stand by our principles and kind of shape our audience. We let the audience completely shape us into a format that was just like, this is completely disorienting. We don't know which way was up. So we let too many cooks into the kitchen in that project. And that to me has always been something to just kind of keep in the back of my mind, where yes, you can be influenced by not just the primary audience, but leadership or whoever else it is. But at the end of the day, if you are putting things together, it's your creative voice that's going into it, and kind of you need a little bit of control there. So whether it's a collaborative project or if it's open to just kind of everyone's opinion, those are all opinions. You are the marketer, so you kind of have the final say there. I think that's something that I learned through that I've kind of kept with me through the last few years.
Who do you know, in your opinion, that is doing video really, really, really well? Like, you think that they're, let's say maybe to aspire to from a business, standpoint, how they're leveraging video, but somebody that you think like, these folks are doing a good job. They obviously are putting some thought into this.
Yeah. I mean, the typical one that I always think of when it comes to just like fun social content would be SEMrush. I mean, they do a great job with their fun marketing, but then they also have solid content marketing behind it. HubSpot as well. But I mean, I think it's different for every brand. I mean, for us, even though we are a video company, we are still very enterprise focused, B2B focused. So we are not doing TikTok dances anytime soon. I think it's just kind of like finding the voice that you want to present to the audience, and that's the guiding light. So with HubSpot, with SEMrush, they know that they want to go with younger marketers. That's who they really want to attract. So they do a fantastic job there. And to me, that's just, again, the main thing. It's like knowing your audience and getting to the right voice more than anything else. So I'll kind of cop out and not give you a better who's doing video the best answer, but that's a really good one. There's a number of like our customers who are in financial services who do a good job, but their whole thing is thought leadership, presenting information. They do a good job with it, but it's again, completely different type of content that they're putting together. So it's not an apple and oranges comparison, or I guess it is an apples and oranges comparison. They're not the same. That's what I'm getting at.
When you're utilizing video yourself as a marketer, what are you using to measure success of that, what you're producing?
Message. If the message is understood, that to me, and the message is understood by the right audience, I think that to me is more important than just getting a ton of engagement. I need the right audience to engage with this. So it's that penetration, looking at, did that video get clicked? Sure, awesome, great. But is this actually something I can tie back to, oh, we got more traffic on this specific page and we saw this audience was converting at this level. So to me, that's really where I'm measuring success. It's again, going back to general business goals. We want to attract the right audience and get them to convert. And if video isn't doing that, if it's just fun out on social, then it's not something I can really say has been successful. Even if it is something that is awesome, looks great, and it's fun, it's not my priority right now.
What has been the most surprising shift that you've seen sort of in the business landscape in your role?
It's so many people who have been in the industry for a while who are willing to try video, because I think it's taken a while to get there, and probably the fact that we got used to using all of these video tools in the last 4 or 5 years. I think that's really helping. But you'll see people who know that they're a little stiff, they're not great on camera, they're a little concerned with how it's going to come across, but they're willing to try. And I think that's a big stepping point that's a little surprising, but really encouraging. Because anyone under 30, it's a given. You're going to be able to do something in front of camera. That's almost expected of you. But anyone who's been in the industry 20, 30, 40 years, and you're willing to give it a go, I always appreciate anyone who's constantly learning, constantly reinventing themselves. And a lot of senior leadership have done a fantastic job of that, of just giving it a go and saying, yeah, I'll give it a try. Is it going to be a little bit off? Is it going to look great? Well, we'll see. But I'm going to try. And I love that.
So let's assume video is the top format for content marketing. Or just say it in general sense. We've sort of alluded to it being great so far. What's second best to you? What's the second best kind of format for content marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I do lead with video, but I think the content marketer in me is never going to say that blog posts or any kind of guide, any kind of written word is truly dead. I mean, there's always a place for it. I think that, with AI, it's kind of becoming devalued. It's so much easier to access information in a way where if you try to put something gated on your website, it's a little bit of a struggle. But I still think that the written word is right there, because when it's done right, when it's done well, you can be so clear, you can get your point across. And if you have a solid word economy, it's not going to be that big of a difference. If you're asking someone to watch a 30-second video or read 200 words of copy, they should be able to get through it equally as efficiently and get the same takeaway. So I still think that written text is right there. It's just, I know that it's not the sexy one that we want to lead with, but there's always going to be a place for it. And it's been around for hundreds of thousands of years for a reason.
And you, like you said, if you're economical with it, with our team, we're often, somebody that we're working with will often say like, well, how long should this be? And say it needs to be as long as it needs to be. Like, we don't want it to be any longer than it needs to be. You want to value the reader's time more than your own. You want to feel, try to make sure that it seems like you're valuing that reader's time more than your own. I want them to read for only as long as they need to, and then get the heck out of there with the idea. It's quality over quantity. So I love that, what you said. If it's thoughtful, if it's written well, you're not far from video at that point as well. Based on what's happened this year, what do you think are you most excited about doing from a marketing standpoint at Social Live over the next year?
It's really getting more information on what's going on, particularly at the enterprise level, because I think that's what a lot of us want to know. Because it's like, all right, we see what's happening down here in the startup space, we see what's happening in the mid-market, but like really understanding the largest companies and what their concerns are and what it is that makes them tick. Like, these are the kinds of questions that we're asking our own customers, that we're asking others, that we're digging into. And for me, it's just kind of going back and kind of nerding out on all of that information, really understanding the mentality and the just, even though it's not necessarily a a single decision that's being made or a single driving point that's going to lead any behemoth of an organization. Just understanding what the motivations are and kind of putting those trends together. I think that for me is the most exciting thing. So it's a really nerdy answer, but just more information on what's going on up there in the big clouds. Like just, I really want to like unpack it and be able to report back like what's going on.
Is there anything that you've uncovered recently that opens new doors to helping you understand what you just described?
Yeah. It's the fact again that the bigger companies are understanding that they can't just put the faceless content out there. That they have to tap into their people. They have to make a connection with their clienteles, with their own employees. That understanding in itself is a big shift. Compared to what it used to be, where it was just like, oh, we're a big organization, we'll churn and burn people. We don't care. Like that's not where things are now. People understand that, yes, even though you may not necessarily as a large organization be able to cater to every single individual in the perfect way, you have to make an attempt. And there has to be some way to make that connection. And funny enough, I mean, from where we believe things are with social life, we believe that video does help with that. It's not the be all end all, but it does make a difference.
So Darius, I lost you for a second there. You were just talking about the hurricane coming by you, and then suddenly you froze, and I look up at my email and it says, is it Helena? Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah.
Is now a Category 3 hurricane expected to bring record storm surge to Florida and flooding. So God be with you over there. Looks like your internet connection and your electricity went out for a moment, huh?
Yeah. This is on the afternoon of Helena passing through Florida. So I'm in Tampa on the West Coast. We are starting to get some of the rain, a lot of the wind that's starting to come in. It's still fairly, and it's not completely calm, but still fairly calm outside here. I'm a little further inland, but yeah, knocked out the power for a second, which took out the internet. We're back.
It's no big thing. Again, it's just a total Thursday. So I can't recall the last thing that you were talking about, being most excited, and that people were in the companies that are utilizing video are starting to recognize you have to at least make an attempt at that human connection with folks. And I love that because it brings together what we talked about of how a powerful video can be for creating a stronger human connection. It's not the ideal situation of being there and shaking hands and sitting down and talking to somebody directly eye to eye, but is a much stronger attempt than what we've seen in the past. And it meets sort of also the business kind of what's happening in business, the trend in business, the hopefully wave that's happening in business to actually like treat their stakeholders as humans in a more human way and try to connect with them in a more human way, right?
Right, and that's it. And that's what we really believe at Social Life, that video does help bridge the gap there. I mean, especially for a lot of these large companies where you can feel like a number when you're working there. So it's great to not just interact with the faceless large enterprise or the voice of God, where it's just the enterprise and the executive sending messaging down, but democratizing the voice of the company as well, and really hearing from and seeing what's going on with the people. So whether it's cross-functionally and understanding, oh, what's going on with the people over there in this completely different business unit I don't interact with, seeing their stories, or just knowing that, hey, okay, I can tell my story, put it out on social, and I don't have to worry about repercussions. Like, I'm actually encouraged to do that. People want me to talk about what's going on in my day-to-day and what life really looks like here. Customers appreciate that. Prospects appreciate that. Like, if you're looking for talent, prospective employees appreciate that when they can see the real and not just the fancy marketing, the glossy.
Not REEL, REAL, right?
Yes, exactly. When they're not seeing the pre-roll, that kind of reel, when they're seeing the actual true, I mean, the heart and soul of the company, which is the people. Like, that's, again, something you can do with video that you kind of have to take a democratized approach in order to get all of those stories out. Because if you have 100,000 people that work within your company, there's no way that you're going to be able to go and send a video crew to get those kinds of insights and get everyone on board to tell what's going on with them. Yeah, you have to kind of put the trust into the people and let them have their own voice. So I think that's where we really see video as being that equalizer and something that's empowering for people.
That's awesome. So as we wrap up here, before another hurricane forms and
Before the next squall rolls
over
in,
there, yeah, exactly. This is your opportunity here at the end. You can ask me one question just before we wrap up the podcast.
Well, I mean, you working in the position that you work in, you get to work with so many different types of companies. And I am very curious if there is a different type of marketing ideology between, say, enterprise level customers and then customers of yours who are just, or clients of yours who are just small startups. Like, do you see a big difference in the approach? Because obviously the resources are different. But what about the ideology? What about the methods behind the madness?
I'd hasten to say that just by the nature of the structure of the organization, large organizations tend to think it's acceptable to create layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of involvement, and, in my opinion, a lot of wasted time to get a lot of things done. And I understand that in some areas there's a lot more to risk in some scenarios. So, being able to make sure that you've got layers of approval and legal and compliance and all that, which smaller companies still have to deal with as well. But I think sometimes it's things that could take less time take more time, not just because of approvals and things. They just take more time, more people involved. And we've seen varied shades of those larger companies who are still kind of holding on to the essence of what it means to be a bit more like agile and maybe collaborative and creative and that sort of thing. And I think that that's missing out on a lot of companies, especially when it comes to marketing. Whereas I think the smaller companies, they, by nature of not even be able to afford that, right? They got to get ahead of competitors. They've got to think quickly. They are faster to move, and there's less. They're not an onion with just layer upon layer upon layer of things just for the simple task. So that's been some of my experience. It's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't know. Have you run into something similar when it comes to some of the folks that you've had to engage with?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like where there's layers of approval, where you get a word of approval from one group and then another business unit gets involved, and then that ends up pushing back the project or extending it, whether it is something that's going to go out, say, on social, or something that's, even if it's just internal facing, like, we can't use these facts and figures, whatever the case may be. It happens. But yeah, it's funny how you just say, like, with the smaller companies, it's kind of what we already know. It's move fast without breaking things if you can, but to try to get as much done as quickly as you can. That's always the pressure, where that may not necessarily be the pressure. If you are the big gorilla in the room, you kind of get to dictate how things go. You get to kind of, you get to set the tempo. Whereas if you're the smaller company, it feels like you're always playing catch up. It's a totally different approach, right?
And I think if you get the balance, it's good, right? Where it does make sense in both of those scenarios. But balancing that out, like in my position, I've been in this position long enough, right? We're going on 18 years as an agency. So in this position, I'm going on long enough that I'm currently, and have for a long, long time, been the outside perspective. And so because I've been the outside perspective, that's how I'm looking at it. And I'm looking going, that's wasteful, or that's a waste of time, or whatever, right? And so I think there's plenty of companies that aren't necessarily doing that. But when I see that that movement, slow and steady, pragmatic, like my COO, he's chill and calm, and he's my rock when it comes to like making sure that he's thinking slowly and pragmatically in the right way. Whereas as somebody who started this 18 years ago and has this entrepreneurial mindset, and I kind of joke that my name should be ADD AM sometimes, I'm a bit more like excited by certain things and all that. And then so when you bring those things together, it's great, which I think is probably a great example of, again, moving fast or moving slow and bringing those two things together to kind of blend them with a mindful yet agile and creative approach.
Yeah, and your personalities kind of complement each other rather than them being at tension. You kind of pull each other toward the middle on it. And it sounds like that works really well for y'all.
Yeah. Well, Darius, man, I love talking to you. It's always sort of good vibes. And you're always positive and definitely know what you're talking about. So I've always enjoyed talking to you. Where should folks connect with you, if at all? Should they, you gonna give them your address? They can come knocking on your door, or is there some other way they should be connecting with you?
Well, if you're in the Tampa area, by all means, we can meet out somewhere at one of the local establishments. By all means, I'm not going to give you the personal address, but on LinkedIn, Darius Thigpen on LinkedIn. And again, socialive.us is our website. If you want to take a look at video creation and some of the best enterprise-facing video creation platform that's out there, just go ahead and take a look. But that's it for the plug. There's
the journalist with the plug and everything. There's the journalist.
I promise you, I don't have a script. You just you kind of set me up, so I had to take it.
Darius, I hope we get to talk again real soon.
All right, Adam. Good chatting with you.
Take care.